Recently, I've been super reflective, right, of this entire year. Kind of been reminded of the fact that we should not be salty. Our influence isn't about being dominant. When we overpower persons with our opinions, with our faith, and instead of enhancing their lives or even enhancing our lives, it creates this barrier where people put walls up and don't want anything to do with us. And salt is very silent, right? You almost don't recognize or see salt working, right? You don't need much of it in order for it to do its job, and that's how our lives should be. I think about, some of the challenges I faced this year. A lot of them I wasn't the light that I would have liked to be. We should not be salty. Try to be, flavorful salt, not overpowering, but just the right amount of what each individual or each environment around us needs in order to bring the flavor out, both within the individuals around us and even within our lives. Welcome to the new episode of the Miles Side Podcast. This is Miles Jr. I'm your host, and as always, the vision and goal of this podcast is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist, always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right? So recently I've been super reflective, right, of this entire year, and everything that has transpired personally and professionally for me in my life. And it just got me to thinking about our influence. And I have kind of been reminded of the fact that we should not be salty, right? That's the word of this episode. Don't be salty. I realized that our influence isn't about being dominant, right, or dominating the worlds that we operate in or the environment that we're in. It's truly about just influencing it and enhancing it. Sometimes we tend to be too overpowering when we should be sort of like how salt is, right? And that reminds me of the scripture verse, Matthew 5:13, where it says, "You are the salt of the earth." And, one thing about salt is a seasoning that just enhances flavor, right? It shouldn't overpower the food that it's flavoring. It should just enhance the flavor. Now, if you are a chef like myself, I like to consider myself a pretty good cook. You have learned through trial and error the amount of salt that you should put on different types of food. I'm a person, I love flavored food, so I sometimes tend to add a little too much salt to the food, right? And when you add too much salt to a food, it overpowers the food. So sometimes, when it's that case, the food is inedible, right? And it doesn't taste good. The experience isn't good. And when the salt overpowers the food, sometimes you have to discard the food altogether. So as individuals, when we overpower those around us or overpower with our influence, when we overpower persons with our opinions, with our faith, it could leave a very sour taste in person's mouth. And instead of enhancing their lives or even enhancing our lives, it creates this barrier where people put walls up and don't want anything to do with us. Our role is to truly enhance the flavor of the lives of the persons around us, right? Through our influence, through our impact, through us being salt. And salt is very silent, right? You almost don't recognize or see salt working, right? You don't need much of it in order for it to do its job. But when it's done right, when it's the right amount of salt, when it's applied the way that it should be applied, you experience the results of the good salt, right? You experience the flavor, you enjoy what it is that you're eating, And that's how our lives should be. And in the same way, Matthew 5, 14 continues to say that you are the light of the world, right? Now, what if I told you that there's no such thing as darkness? And it's just a term we use in our society to describe what should be known as just the absence of light, right? And I think that's all that darkness is. Darkness exists when light is not around. Once light is there, darkness is no longer there, right? And light doesn't fight with darkness, doesn't argue with darkness. There's no tug and pull over, who is going to win when it's a battle between light and darkness. Light just shines and darkness is no more. And for us, that's how we're supposed to be, right? We should not be trying to escape the darkness, but we should be a light, right? Or a glow of a shine of some sort to create light when we're in dark moments. And I think this comes up a lot when we face challenges, right? A lot of times, that's when our light is most visible. Folks who are around us in our environments, who know us, a lot of the times they see the light that is within us when we're going through our most challenging times. I think about this a lot when I'm in certain situations, and after the situation happens, I ask myself, man, was I a light in that situation? And I think about some of the challenges I faced this year. A lot of them I wasn't the light that I would have liked to be, right? Sometimes my emotion took over, and might have said something or reacted a certain way that didn't display a good level of light. And for me, I'm not too hard on myself, because we're all developing and still going through learning what exactly it means to be the light of the world, right? And we're not going to get it right all the time. We're humans, imperfect beings, very emotional beings at times, and sometimes our emotions get the better of us. But the role is for us to recognize our inadequacies and be convicted by what it is we realize, right? And just correct it, and learn how better to respond in those situations. And like I said, the times when we face challenges is when our light shines. You learn a lot about a person when they have that knee-jerk reaction, right? Or whatever that knee-jerk reaction is. That's what's buried deep inside. Like, that's the true light that they're illuminating. So for me, I always try to be aware of what it is I'm saying, how I'm reacting, how I'm being viewed, especially when I'm in these challenging situations and like these spur of the moment situations where something happens and I have a knee-jerk reaction. And my goal is always to try, maybe not to have a perfect reaction, but a reaction that shows a glimpse of light, of the light that's within me. And this reminds me, at least a good analogy I want to bring to show this point is, I saw a video online recently, and it was about this gentleman. He was on it looked like it was a public bus transportation, and he had this sign that says, I think it was like Jesus saves or something along those lines, and he was pretty much witnessing to the persons that were on the bus. Now, let me just say this disclaimer and say, I don't know if this video was like what actually happened. Like, I don't know if it was a staged video. Like, this might have been something where the entire thing was planned and people did it for reactions and likes and clicks and whatnot. Like, we never know how these videos come about that we see, that come across our timelines. But nonetheless, whether the video is true or not, that's not the point. It's actually the message that the video portrays. I think it was a powerful message, right? So this guy was witnessing in the bus, had this sign. He was, this person you see on the side of the road that are like just speaking very loudly and witnessing to the cars that are passing, to the people that are passing and whatnot. A lot of the times I personally view some of those people as being too salty. Right. So when I saw this gentleman, I was like, man, maybe maybe he's pouring it on a little too much. Maybe that's a little too much salt, right? Because it was a confined space, right, in a bus. The bus wasn't crowded, but there was a good amount of people in it. I don't think he was. It didn't seem like he was annoying or interrupting anyone. I think for the most part, either people were listening or ignoring him and whatnot. But nonetheless, he was still witnessing. But there was this one particular gentleman who started to get like aggravated, and you can visibly see him getting agitated. And he got up, turned around, and just kind of started this back and forth with the gentleman. It was like, man, why don't you shut up? Like, you're making a bunch of noise. No one trying to hear this. Like, just stop talking. And the guy was like, man, I just wanted to spread the good news to you, right? Just be a messenger of hope, a messenger of love, and all of this. And the guy started to get like very aggressive and very hostile, and again, screamed at the guy. I was like, man, just shut up, stop talking, whatever. And at some point during the exchange, man, this guy hauled back and slapped this gentleman. And this wasn't just a regular slap. This was like, in the Bahamas, we call it, he burst this boy head off, right? That means he slapped him really hard. It's Bahamian vernacular. But the gentleman's reaction was, he actually didn't react at first. Like, obviously, it hurt, right? Because he held his face and, like, groaned in pain and whatnot. But he instantly, like, clicked in and was like, man, it's okay. Like, I still love you. I'm not upset. As a matter of fact, slapped me on the other cheek, right? And this gentleman, even the persons in the bus was like they gasped and was like, what? Like, what are you doing? Like, first of all, they gasped because this guy slapped this gentleman. But then everyone was a bit confused and like just weirded out, I guess, where the guy was like, man, slap me on the other cheek, slap me on the other cheek. And the guy was looking at him like, man, you're crazy. Like, I just slapped you. Obviously, I slapped you hard. It had to hurt because you reacted. And then you want to turn around and slap me on the other cheek. And he was like, yes, because I love you, man. I forgive you. I'm not upset. Like, just slap me on the other cheek. If it's going to make you feel better, like, do it again. Now, I want to take whatever that grief or that burden is that you're feeling right now, just put it on me. And the gentleman, like, just was confused at first. And then you saw him, like, slowly breaking down. And it got to a point where he started to cry, right? Because first of all, of the love that this guy was showing him, right? I guess for him, he expected, man, if I slap you, you're going to get upset and we're going to go at it. And whatever this aggression is in me, I'm going to be able to get it out because I'm not feeling good right now. And eventually he got to telling the gentleman, but first of all, he started to apologize. Was like, man, I'm sorry, man. Like, I overreacted. I'm just not in the mood because recently his grandfather had died and he was distraught and upset and just wasn't, I guess, his self. And he, wasn't interested in hearing what the gentleman was witnessing at the time. And the guy was like, man, I understand. And he told him that, maybe your grandfather is in a better place. Like, you might have prayed. The guy was like, man, I was praying for God to heal him. And he didn't heal him, right? So I don't want to hear nothing about your God. Like, he was super agitated of the fact that, this God that this guy is speaking about is the same God, at least in his opinion, that didn't heal his grandfather and his grandfather passed away. And, that was a moment where, man, that the guy really showed his light, right? And he became a great witness to this gentleman and was like, man, you prayed to God for healing and God gave him the ultimate healing, right? He's not in any more pain. Actually, he's in a better place, right? A much better place than we are in being still here on this earth. And man, that just kind of, it definitely ministered to the guy, and he broke down. And eventually the gentleman was like, man, can I pray for you? Like, do you mind if I pray for you? And they had a moment. This guy started to tear up, apologize. And it was just like a reminder for me of how we are supposed to be, right? The influence or the light that we are supposed to reflect in moments just like that. Those the most challenging moments that we experience, regardless of what society or how society may react most of the time, or even what society how they may expect us to react. If we show them something different, that creates an influence that we can have, or an impact that we can have on the lives of those around us, and it could change their their state of mind at the moment. It could change their environment. It can totally give them a 180, and they could be an entirely different person because of that experience. And that's what Matthew 5:14 speaks of when it says, you are the light of the world. And being light, we're not supposed to, again, overshine. Same thing with salt. We're not supposed to just be pounding at the fact that, like, you need to accept my opinion, or you need to accept this gospel, that I'm speaking. It's essentially just living in a way where, whether you're saying words or not saying words, right, your life is a witness in and of itself because of the way you are and the way that you're being around others. So for me, it really says. I started to ask myself, man, what would I have done in that situation, right? If I was witnessing to someone and this guy just stood up and burst my head off, like how would have I reacted? And I think that's a really deep question for us to ask ourselves. Like, would I be able to react in a way where I wasn't hostile, or I didn't meet his energy, right? And I kind of diffuse the situation and just be like, man, I understand. Like, give me your pain, give me your sorrow, give me your grief. Allow me to carry it for you so that so that you can feel better. And that's what light is, right? Light just shines in the midst of darkness and overpowers it. Not forcefully, right? But just because the light is what it is. And I think that's what this guy was, not only to the gentleman that he was, having that encounter with, but to even others on the bus. And I'm sure that even them seeing and experiencing that probably did something for their lives as well. So we never know who we are influencing or who we are impacting when we are being light, when we are being salt. And I think that should be one of the goals for us in our day-to-day lives. Just try to be good light. Try to be, flavorful salt, not overpowering, but just the right amount of what, each individual or each environment around us needs in order to bring the flavor out, both within the individuals around us and even within our lives as well. All right. So I want to leave this milestone with you, just to kind of highlight what we have been discussing today about not being salty. And the milestone today is this: the world doesn't need more noise, it needs more light. It doesn't need more judgment, it just needs a little more flavor. So for the rest of this year, wherever you are, be the salt that enhances and the light that reveals. That's the influence that we're supposed to have. All right? So, we are in the last month of the year, just about to get into a new year. It's the holiday season. Let's continue to be light. And if we haven't been light yet for the year, we have the rest of this month and into next year to do so, right? So we could build up that momentum so that we can just be the light of the world that we were mandated to be. That brings us to the end of this episode. That's what I wanted to share. Happy holidays to everyone. This is my favorite season of the year, and hope that you guys, now that we're in December, you're enjoying or even feeling the holiday spirit, and just continue to share that gift of light to those around us. All right. As always, the vision and goal of this podcast is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist. Always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right. Until next time, you guys stay blessed.